Hi, I'm Michelle. I am the Michelle that Monique spoke of in one of her videos. And this is definitely something outside of my comfort zone. But she definitely gave me the courage that there should be more information out there. And so we came up with the idea to collaborate. So I'm going to do one, maybe two videos, try to keep it in the 30-minute area like she does. So I broke my tibia plateau on March 3rd. March 4th. And I was actually in Colorado. And at the time, I thought that it was just ligament damage. And I didn't want to go to the doctor and pay out of network and all that kind of stuff. So I came home from Colorado. A lot of people were pretty surprised to find that out, that I managed that without much difficulty. I actually didn't have a very painful break. I have heard from a lot of people that their breaks were excruciating from the moment it happened. I didn't experience that, and that's okay. All of our breaks are different. We all experience different pain levels. We all have different tolerances. Maybe my bone was just in a position that wasn't truly affecting me. I mean, I wasn't walking on it. I was using crutches, and it was painful. I couldn't do anything on it, but just sitting around, it wasn't, my pain wasn't a 10. It was manageable, and the flight home wasn't comfortable, but again, tolerable, and I got through it. So I went to an orthopedic urgent care the day I got home, and they did a scan, and the doctor came in and said within 30 seconds, "You broke your tibia." And I genuinely thought he was messing with me. But he wasn't, and I did. So I went straight to the hospital. On the 10th of March, I had to have an external fixation, and on the 13th of March, I had my internal fixation. I'll get into that story in a minute, but I'd like to go back to the whole point of doing this. I was sent home with very little information, very little, and incorrect expectations. And I just felt like something was wrong. So I started looking online, and of course I went to YouTube because everything's on YouTube, right? But I found very little. The only thing that I found remotely helpful was Monique and Chris's video. I do have a deep faith in God. However, I don't believe in miracles. If you would like to talk more about that, message me. We can talk about it. But it just so happened that Monique uploaded her video the same day I went searching, probably hours before. And I was in a really, really bad place. I was scared. I felt alone. I wasn't sure what was going on with my body. I was terrified to do more damage. I just didn't know what to do other than to just sit there and languish for weeks until my next appointment, which seemed not the right way to go about things. And I'm a very proactive person, and that just wasn't me. And when I saw Monique's video, she said everything I was feeling that I didn't even realize I was feeling. I was definitely starting to spiral down a deep, dark hole because this is such an intense injury. And like she's talked about, the emotional part of it, everything that it takes away from you, having to have people wait on me hand and foot. I mean, thank heavens I was able to go to the bathroom by myself, and that was about it, but I was pretty darn thankful. And, if you can't, that's okay. That is okay. I'm sorry that you have to experience that. It has to be awful. But that's okay. This is really, really painful, really hard, and it really alters your body and your ability to do anything. So I found her video, and it it brought me to the groups on Facebook, which was a whole plethora of information. It was really the information source that I was looking for. And it was the support I was looking for. There is a whole group of people out there that are going through everything you are going through, that know exactly how you feel and can give you some incredible advice. Now, always remember, none of us are doctors, although there are a couple of doctors on there who have had this fracture. So, do take everything that we say to each other with a grain of salt, because what works for one does not always work for another. And we should be asking our doctors about these things. But there are things that we can tell each other that is very helpful. I mean, first off, we can support each other emotionally because we fully understand what the other person is going through. But for example, I asked everybody their opinion on a thing called a rollator. It has 4 wheels and handle brakes. Some people said awesome. It was awesome. Some people said don't do it. It's a death trap. And I was kind of on the fence, and I was like, well, it's not unanimous, and it is something I should talk to my doctor about, so I'm not going to do it. But somebody brought up the point of using a office chair with wheels to scoot around, because I'm finding one of the biggest problems of having any independence is being able to carry things. I can get from place to place, but I can't carry anything. But if I had, the office chair and I can scoot around, I can put things on my lap. So that's a piece of advice that I really don't have to run by my doctor, and it was a great piece of advice. So, there is a lot of help out there. So, yes, she totally did save me, and I am hoping that this video and my experience, and, she has broken hers down into many videos, and I'm going to try to kind of encompass all of mine into one. So it might be a little bit less detailed. It saved me, and I hope that I can help someone out there, or, give a piece of advice, or see a side that maybe Monique didn't. And because we all have different experiences. Some of them are very similar. Some of them are incredibly different. So, and that's okay. We're not all gonna injure ourselves the exact same way. So anyway, I was skiing near Breckenridge. I'm not gonna say the exact resort. And there was a father teaching his son to ski. And he was very, focused on his son. And this particular resort did not have as wide of slopes as most resorts do in the West. If you ski out there, you know what I'm talking about. And so it was fairly narrow, so not a lot of room to maneuver. So the father had reached the left edge of the slope, and I fully expected him to turn right and go towards his son, who was pretty much, just pizza plowing it down the middle of the slope very slowly. He did not. He stopped or turned so incredibly slowly that by the time my brain registered that I had nowhere to go and tried to stop because I was going to slam into him, and if I banked right, I was going to slam into his kid. And I pulled up to my left as hard as I could, trying as hard as I could to stop, and I just had too much motion behind me, and not enough force in my legs to do it. So I went down, but here's the kicker. As I went down, I went off a 4-foot drop. I spun 180 degrees until my head was facing downhill. My head and shoulders caught a snowbank, and I went head over heels. And when I came down, I drove my ski so hard into the snow that it was sticking straight up, and my ski was buried to the tip of my boot. My left leg, that was my right leg, by the way, which is the one I injured. My left leg got caught on a caution pole, which does have some flexibility, but it was caught so far at my ankle that it caught my leg, and I was splayed. My legs were splayed about as far as they could go. And I popped up. I knew I was in pain. I knew something was wrong, and I knew I had to get my boots off. At no point, by the way, did my skis pop off. So I knew I had to get my boots out of the skis, but I could not reach them. Thank heavens my brother was there. He got to me very quickly. He popped my feet out of the skis. He pulled me up out of the snow, but we both knew something was very wrong. Now, I can super hyperextend my knees much more than the average person. I can lift my heels when laying on the ground with my feet straight out in front of me, a good 3 inches off the ground. That's very abnormal. And I do firmly believe that that is the main cause of my injury when I went head over heels. Because I actually broke my femur twice, kind of technically. I broke the right side, I snapped off half of the tibia, and the left side I crushed it. So I believe that when I went head over heels, the impact of my bones going backwards, because I hyperextended, did one. And then when I came down with my foot into the snow, again, my knee hyperextended with that force, and it did the other. So, at the time I was in incredible pain. I could see the lodge, which was really humiliating, and I had to get taken down, by ski patrol. But I guess I can say, I have that experience. Silver linings, right? They don't have an x-ray machine in their little triage type place. They just make sure you're not bleeding seriously. And if you can walk out of there, they say you want to walk. If you don't, we'll call an ambulance. It's your call. Well, I was able to hobble out of there, and we went back to my brother's RV. By the way, I was staying in an RV. And I just firmly believed it was ligament pain. Although, looking back deep down somewhere in my brain, I knew it wasn't. But I didn't want to believe that. So that was my accident. So I get home, I get the x-ray, I go to the hospital, I get the X-Fix, which, by the way, for me personally, coming out of surgery with the X-Fix was excruciating. They had to push pretty much all the pain meds I was permitted to get me down from, screaming. And they finally did. But then after that, it was pretty good. It wasn't that bad. Except for the freak part of, metal sticking out of your leg. So then I had my second surgery. That was on Friday. I had my second surgery, the internal fix, on a Monday. I came out of surgery, and I fully expected to be in severe pain after my first experience. But it also wasn't that bad in my experience. Again, other people have said otherwise. We are all different. So don't, take that with a grain of salt. If you haven't had surgery yet, it could be either way for you. But once I got out of surgery and got back into my room, things started to change rapidly. I was in excruciating pain. I was crying. And for me to cry, that is beyond a 10. That is immeasurable pain. That is right before passing out for me. And I cried for 8 hours. Now, there is a very long story behind this, which I would also be happy to share, and I have shared on the Facebook group, but I don't want to go into excruciating detail with it. But essentially, I kept telling the doctors something is wrong with my body, and no one wanted to believe me. They just wanted to believe it was the surgical pain, but I knew something else was wrong, and I fought with every doctor that came in, but I guess I didn't fight hard enough. In the end, on day 3, someone finally ran a test, and turns out my magnesium levels were very low. And if you don't know, magnesium plays a very large part in your muscle function. So since my magnesium was low, and if you also don't know, during the surgery, there is a tourniquet on your thigh the entire time of your surgery. And that is very traumatizing to your muscles. and everything else in there because there's no blood flow, no oxygen. So my muscles were all bound up and tight because of no magnesium. So they gave me a magnesium drip, and within 15 minutes, sure, I didn't feel great, but I wasn't at a 10 anymore. It probably took me down to a 6, which is manageable at least. So my takeaway from this, and again, there's a lot more details, including the fact that I overdosed because the doctor's response was to just give me more opioids instead of listening to me. The takeaway here is if you say there is something wrong with your body, you scream, you yell, you fight. I don't care if you have to curse. You do whatever you have to do to get the physicians to listen to you. I wish I had done more. I think that my recovery would have been better if I had gotten that magnesium drip sooner. But if you genuinely think something is wrong, you have to fight for yourself. So, just like Monique had to fight for 6 weeks for someone to believe her that something was wrong, you need to fight. You need to be loud. You need to rampage. You are the only one that's going to take care of you. You are the only one that feels what you feel. These doctors, they really lose empathy because they see so much every day, and half of them haven't even experienced any level of pain like this. They can't even really relate. They just see it and they become desensitized, and we have to remember that as patients, and we have to fight for ourselves. So whether it be before your accident, during your surgery, or after your accident, or after your surgery, or during your recovery, if you think something's wrong, you fight until you feel it's right. So moving on from that, came home and, I was in a lot of pain. We all are. It really sucks. The first couple days are horrible, to say the least. And like I said, I was in a dark place because I was sent home believing that I would be 100% walking. And they literally said to me, as if nothing had happened, in 8 weeks. And I just could feel that wasn't right. I mean, I could feel it in my body that in no way was I going to be totally okay in 8 weeks. So I started researching, and that's when I came across Monique's and Chris's video and the Facebook group, and that's when I started realizing what I was facing. And so then I also went to get a second opinion to get a doctor who would actually talk to me. So after doing a lot of research on my own and seeing this second doctor, I learned what I was facing. I was facing 8 weeks of no walking and then months of rehab and up to a year before I was back to normal. And even then, it might not be what my life was before. It will be livable. It will be good. I will walk, but maybe I won't ski. Maybe I won't do some of the extreme things that I used to do. That is a hard part for me to wrap my head around. Like Monique had said, she wished or hoped or was glad that she did not hurt herself surfing because she doesn't know if she could go back to it. I don't know if I'm going to bring myself to be able to go back to skiing. And I think another mental part of it that she might not fully understand because, it wasn't doing an activity that she loved, is the fear that comes with it. The fear that comes with any activity remotely like it. Because you question if your body can do it anymore, and you're terrified that you're going to sustain another injury even half this bad. And that is a hurdle I'm working on. I see a lot of people on the group who have gotten back to doing the things that injured them, and that is fantastic, and it gives me hope. And I know that I have a good year to work on that mental hurdle, which I will proceed to do, and I encourage all of you to do. Don't give up. It is scary, but life is scary, and we shouldn't stop doing things that we love just because it's scary. We should just be more careful. So to my recovery, I would like to speak to some of the things that helped me. So obviously I was sent home with no direction, and I just kept my leg pretty stiffly at about 30 degrees, which after some research, I found out that that is the most common, comfortable position for TPF, especially for those who are cleared for full range of motion immediately after surgery, which is a large percentage of us. Now, many people do go home in braces for various reasons because they're not cleared for full range of motion, because of the way that their bones were set or the way that they had injured them. And that is the doctor's call, and they generally know what they're talking about. But if you are cleared for full range of motion, if you are sent home with no brace, I questioned it. I thought it was weird. I was like, why do I not have a brace? What it means is you are totally allowed to bend your leg as much as you can. Now, don't be like, bending, your knee bends. Don't be like bending it this way, because your knee's not supposed to do that, obviously. But you can bend it your full, like, I think your knee has 140 degrees of motion, but, we're kind of just working on 90 degrees for the first 2 months. You can bend as much of that 90 degrees as you can handle. So what that means is listen to your body. Push yourself. It will hurt. It will suck. But you have to push yourself, because at this point, the doctor has done everything the doctor can do. And it is pretty much 90% up to you at this point. And the second opinion doctor said to me that, if the patient isn't motivated, the outcomes can be bad. And I'm not saying that to be mean or to judge or to scare, because I know that all your levels of pain are different, and the amount that you can progress every day is different, and you're battling with depression and fear and just a myriad of horrible emotions that immobilize you, not just physically, but emotionally. You just feel defeated and crushed, but you have to push through that. So I quickly learned that holding my leg at 30 degrees, although felt good, was not good for my recovery, and that I needed to get my knee to 0 degrees as soon as possible. That 0 degrees was more important than 90 degrees. And so when I first got home and I would get up, I would stand up, and it felt like every ounce of blood in my body rushed into my leg, and it was heavy, and it hurt, and it throbbed, and it was awful, and I hated getting up. But the moment I started pushing my leg to 0 degrees, now I didn't get there for like 5 days, but the moment I started trying was the moment that everything started getting better. It was the moment I felt the physical change in my leg. Every day that I gained more degrees, I could walk further, I could stand longer, I could do more exercises, because my leg was no longer stiff. And here's the thing, you are not rehabbing your bone. Your bones are, the bones that weren't broken aren't broken, and the bones that were broken are now encased in metal, which is kind of like a false bone for now, while your bones heal. So essentially, your leg, yes, it can't support your weight because the metal can't sustain that. The metal can't support that much, while also staying in your leg. But it can support everything else. So you're not really rehabbing your bones. Your bone is healing while you're doing all this. But aside from, maybe taking some supplements, which personally, and cartilage, there's not much you can do physically to help your bone. This is all about your muscles, your ligaments, the soft tissue. So not only was your injury traumatic to that, but when they fix your bone, they have to push all that shit aside. And that is like hardcore. Like, they are stretching them to max capacity. And then you also have a tourniquet on your leg, and you're depriving them of what they need. And it is just awful. So you need to fix those, not your bone. So yes, your joint is tight, but it's really your muscles that are tighter, and you need to work those. So the moment I started realizing that, the moment I started working my muscles, was the moment that everything changed for me. And the moment I got to 0 degrees, it was like a switch flipped. And I'm not saying this is going to be the same for everyone. Again, we all have to find our path. I think my point is that you have to try to find your path. The first several days, I was not motivated to move. And when I started forcing myself to move, I started having slow epiphanies. And every time I had one of those about my physicality, my body, that no one else could truly tell me but me, every time I had one of those, I made serious progress. So I'm a very flexible person. Part of that is my hyperextension. One of my doctors said that I am wobbly or something because all my joints hyperflex. So I have always found it very comfortable to sit in contorted and scrunched positions. Having my legs out straight was never comfortable for me. I'm always cross-legged. I always have my knees up to my chest. So that's been really hard for me. But I started realizing, even though I can't get my knee to 90 degrees yet, my other joints can do things. My hip can flex. I can still pull my leg up, and I can twist my hip, and I can move my leg. And the moment I started doing those things, the moment I started listening to what my body needed, now I'm not saying you can do this, and that's okay, because like I said, I'm super flexible, but maybe there's something else that your body needs. Everything changed. And it has, yes, it hurts my knee. I'm not gonna lie. After doing that kind of stuff that I just showed you, it hurts my knee, but I take some just painkillers, not oxy, but just like normal stuff, and I ice it, and it's fine. It's a very temporary pain, because that's the thing. Pushing yourself to get better is gonna be painful, but it's gonna be a temporary pain, and then the rest of your day is gonna be way less painful because you're pushing through the pain. You're getting your leg back to normal. You have to get all those muscles back to normal. So a few other things that have helped me, again, I'm not a doctor. Ask your doctor, test it out slowly. So I, first off, movement, obviously. Movement. Every doctor is going to tell you movement, as much as you can. And, like Monique had said, if you have to take a 5-hour nap after that, cool. Whatever. I might say I move a lot, but frankly, I probably move 10% of the day. But that's a lot because it's all that I can handle, and I do everything that I can do. So if you're doing that and you're immobile for the 90% of the day, that's fine. I'm not saying you got to be up and walking every minute of every day. I'm just saying do as much as you can do, whatever that is. Movement. I like to alternate heat and ice. Heat, really relaxes your muscles, and ice really gives them a soothing kind of healing ability. Magnesium is so important. Even if you don't have low magnesium or hadn't experienced that like I did, magnesium helps muscles heal. So take a magnesium supplement. It's water soluble. Unless you have a seriously bad kidneys or something, it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you, and you'll pee out anything that you don't use. They even have magnesium lotion. Now, I will give a cautionary note on this. It can be a little intense at first, so go easy with it. Do some tester spots. The first night I tried it, I put it on my entire leg, and it was way too much. It really does relax your muscles to such an insane amount that my leg felt almost heavier and deader than I did right after surgery, but in a better way because it wasn't painful. If I didn't have an injury, it would have been a very lovely sensation after a hard day of work to have my muscles that relaxed. But it didn't work so well in conjunction with the injury. So I have since learned to only put it on the muscles that are having the most issues that day, and I use it to sleep. You could use it during the day, but once again, you're going to be so relaxed, you're not going to get up and move. So if you do intend to take a nap or sit there and watch TV for 5 hours, sure, go ahead, use it. But again, not a doctor. Test it out slowly. And the last thing, which a lot of people have told me, be careful with this because it can form blood clots. However, my doctor did not say that. So again, check with the doctor. Be careful. Was massage. I massage my leg as much as I can, and the parts of it that I can't reach, I have my husband massage. This has helped in 2 ways. 1, it has helped with my pain. 2, it has helped with swelling. So also the elevation. So nose to toes, or toes to nose, which means your foot should be higher than your knee should be higher than your hip. And then you should also be as close to 0 degrees while doing that as possible. And this will help drain the blood out of your leg, and it will help with swelling. And by massaging it in conjunction with that, you are going to get even less swelling. I have been really fortunate with my swelling. A lot of people are saying they're struggling with it. I do attribute my lack of swelling to all these things that I've done, but I can't know for sure because I don't have an alternate life where I didn't do them. Maybe I'm just lucky. So those are the things that have helped me the most physically. Learn your body, be proactive, do as much as you can. Do not let the depression stop you. Fight through it. It's hard. I know. I'm not telling you it's not. I'm just telling you that this is something you have to do for yourself because no one else can. It's tough. So I guess the last part, keep busy. Yes, you're going to watch a butt ton of TV, and there's nothing wrong with that, but find something else, something stimulating, something productive, something educational, something motivational. It can be anything that helps you, but don't just watch TV. I personally love to cross stitch, and this might be basic, but, bees are everywhere now. It's the thing right now, right? And so I got a cross stitch that has a bee on it. And so every time that I do it, I remind myself, what does that stand? What do I need that to stand for? Be positive, be courageous, be empowered, be strong, be proactive, be active. Whatever I need to be, I remind myself, be those things. So whatever helps you, anything, learn a new instrument. I have a banjo I've been meaning to make and work on because that'll be a great distraction. Learn a new language. I mean, hell, we don't have to make these 8 weeks mean nothing. Like, at the end of these 8 weeks, let's say I can do this now. Let's be positive about it. And, back to positivity, not all of you had the same experience of accident like I did. Yes, I think everyone could say it could have been worse. But mine really could have been worse. Underneath a snowbank on the edge of a slope is ungroomed, unregulated, unkempt. There could have been a stump. There could have been a large limb. Any other part of my body could have been severely injured. Something could have been driven through my torso, my head. I could have died. I could have broke my neck. And then I also try to think of another silver lining. I try to think of those things that might be true, but you don't know. I could have plowed that kid over, and I could have maimed him for life. I could have swerved harder to the right and crashed elsewhere, and another skier could have crashed over me and could have done me more damage. I don't know. Sadly, we don't live in a world where the multiverse has been proven and where we can know those things. But I like to tell myself that something else worse could have happened. And it's probably true. And I'm thankful that this was all that came of it. Would I do it again? No. But you still have to be positive. You have to look at the good things. You have to have a good attitude. It really is part of it. Like, so much of this healing is mental. It really, really is. And like Monique said, people don't acknowledge that. The doctor surely doesn't acknowledge that. That so much of this is a mental fight. And you have to fight. All of it is a fight, and you have to fight. But we are all so strong. So strong. Like, the fact that we all haven't just ended it proves how strong we are. The fact that we all went through that pain, and we all know what kind of pain I'm talking about, proves how strong we are. And for those of you who have not had surgery or who are languishing, this is nothing to harm yourself over. Don't even do that. You're going to get over this. You're going to get through this. It is going to be okay. I promise you. Now, I am only 11 days post-op, and I can firmly say that. I can. How great am I going to be? I don't know. Am I going to be good enough? Yeah, I am. And so are you. So thank you, Monique, for letting me share my story, and I hope others of you share your story. Sorry it was over 30 minutes. And I hope that someone finds this helpful. And again, I'm not a doctor, so double check with your doctor about everything I said. All right, thanks for listening.